Self-joins are suitable when a table contains a relationship between its own rows, often through a primary key and a foreign key that refers to the same table. They are useful to retrieve or compare related information within the same table in a relational database. For example, we have this table showing the members in a family, extended family, you would say. Alice is at the top of it because no parent ID is indicated here, but she is Bob and Charlie's parents, and then we have David and Emma are Bob's children. So you can see with the parent ID, Bob is member's ID is 2, and then David and Emma's parent ID, that is who their parent is 2. So say for instance you want to count the number of children each parent has. You can write a simple SQL query to do that. But before we go there, let's look at another version. Say I have the same information stored in 2 tables. The primary table, which contains the member information, their ID and their names, and I have another table that tells me the parents of each member. So for example, we can still see the information that Bob and Charlie have Alice as their parent. If I were to write an SQL query to get me the number of children for each parent, it should look like this using my SQL. So I have my parent ID and parent name being picked from the main table from member ID and member name. And then I also have my number of children, count of number of children being picked from the other table, from this other table that I called bridge child parents. So just to give an example of what is going to happen in the background. So I say select member ID as parent ID and member name as parent name. Remember, I'm selecting from the table, from this table to my left. Member ID, parent ID, and parent name. And then I'm counting the number of instances that this is equals to this from this table. So that's my children count. And then in the first instance, I have member ID 1 and member name Alice. And then I'll have that it comes here to count number of children that Alice has, or number of instances that this member ID occurs, and then it gives me 2. So same thing for Bob, and then gives the count, and then same thing for Charlie, and then gives the count, and so on and so forth. So if I were to run this query in MySQL, it will return this. So back to our normal table, we have the member ID and the parent ID within the same table. So self-join first will need me to, now remember, just conceptually, what we'll do is create 2 representations of the table in our SQL query. So as we have here, we see that we are referring to the same table when we try to join. So PC, parents child, again, just name the table is given as C and same parents child as P, right? So I have C here and then I have P here. Now, for me to be able to get the member ID, for me to be able to get the number of children that each parent has, I'm going to use the same parent ID. Now, remember in the bridge table example, right? This was what I had. So When using self-join, it's kind of like the same thing, right? When using self-join in this sense, it's kind of like the same thing. Mainly just interested in this parent ID column from the other table. So if I go back to our table here, or our two tables here, which I mean, again, same table, but just two different copies because we want to use a self-join. So I'm going to join, again, I'm selecting member ID from C as parent ID. I'm selecting member name from C as parent name, and then I come here. I'm interested in finding the number of counts. That is the number of times that member ID here is equals to parent ID here, which in the real sense, I'm saying the number of times member ID is equals to number of times member ID in the table is equals to number of times parent ID is in that same table. But it's a self-join. I just need another copy so that it feels like it's joining a different table. So I start picking parent ID from C. Remember, I have C as my table on the left and P as my table on the right. So parent ID and then parent name, and then I'm counting the number of instances, again, the number of times that the parent ID shows technically within the same table, but the concept of self-join is that I'm creating a copy to help me retrieve or compare information that's contained within that same table. So just like we had in the previous instance, where what we had in that other table was just these two columns as member ID and parent ID, written as child ID and parent ID, and then it's just going to do the same thing. Sees Alice here, member ID 1, Alice, and then counts number of times that Alice appears, and then that'll be 2, so it's just going to give me the same thing. And then same thing for Bob, same thing for Charlie. And now if I go run this query in my SQL, now notice that I'm calling the same table here, same query that we have on the page I just showed you now. If I run it, it gives the same result. So that's how we can use self-joins, and that's why we use self-joins. Basically, we are trying to retrieve information that's contained within the same table, as opposed to when it's in two different tables. But basically just going to say, oh, create another copy of this table for me and get me the information that I need, treat it as two different tables. I hope that I was able to explain. Uh, if you have any questions, please ask. Please, if this helped you out, kindly give a like. And if you would want to get more videos from me, please give a subscribe and let me know in the comment section below if you have any questions or if you would like to see any videos explaining some SQL concepts. Thank you.